Hello and welcome to Deconstructing Dog Pose. I'm Lizzy Lasater, hosting today, and teaching us is Judith Lasater. Hi, Mama.
Hi, Lizzy, and hi, everyone, and welcome to our deconstruction seminar.
Okay, I am going to make sure that the chat is working because I would love to hear where in the world you're joining us from. So find your way into the chat. Let us know where in the world you are, number one. And number two, Iowa, Italy, Cincinnati, Oakland are the first four that I saw. Welcome, everyone. And Berlin, Santa Cruz, Detroit, Paris. Mom, are you looking at this?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I can read it. It's pretty fast.
Michigan, Cape Cod, Maine, Montana. Welcome, everyone. I'd
Vancouver,
also,
Minneapolis, Wisconsin. Yeah.
I would love to hear how you heard about this webinar. That I would be curious to know if you're subscribed to Mom's newsletter or my newsletter, one of our Instagrams, Facebook, where you heard about it. Scarlett, welcome, welcome newsletters. Okay. And last question before we officially start. Who is in, oh, from Patricia Schneider, someone said, that's wonderful. So who is in experiential anatomy? Who has taken one of our online anatomy courses before? Give a yes in the chat if you're a legacy student and let us know. Yeah. Okay, good. So glad to see so many of you here.
Repeat offenders.
Repeat offenders. Okay, Mama, would you ring your bells and get us started?
All right. I want to say that I start every teaching that I do, whether it's asana or lecture, that's about this incredible gift of yoga. I always start it with 1 minute of nothing. So we can individually and collectively let go of the swirlingness of our life and just for a moment settle down, settle in, settle back into this understanding and learning and sharing this yoga we love so well. So I'm ring the bells. We'll sit for about a minute and then I'll ring the bells again. So let's start with an intention. What is our intention? When we do Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog, to me, the greatest intention is is to create a shape which allows the vertebral column to find its natural length. So it comes. We use our arms and legs, and in such a way that allows the vertebral column to let go and to
Ooh,
ripple.
I like that, Mom. I'm going to give you a moment to shift your audio back from the bells. And I want to just give a brief overview about what we're doing together today. We have an hour for deconstructing dog pose. Mama
I have
has
one
five.
more thing.
Yes, 1 second. Mama has 5 key points, and we are going to get on the mat together. So now would be a great time to locate your yoga mat and 2 blocks if you have them. This is experiential learning, just like our course, Experiential Anatomy, which we're here to celebrate today. And what that means is we're not going to come at it from the brain, trying to understand these concepts exclusively, but we're going to feel them from the body together and suspend our disbelief, feel them first in our body, hopefully in a new way, and then add a layer of anatomical understanding to hopefully encourage ourselves to practice this pose, downward facing dog, differently. Let me show Mom the website briefly where people can find the course, and then you can jump into your content for the day. So if you go to lasater.yoga, that's our website where our online courses live, and you scroll down, one of the first courses you'll see is Experiential Anatomy, which is a massive course. We are enrolling a new cohort of students, which will go through this course together this fall. Our first live webinar is on September 27th. We hope you will be there with us. It'll be like this, but even more fun because we'll be able to see many of you who want to turn on your videos and ask questions, show us your poses. For the next less than 2 weeks until September 27th, we are offering 40% off for those of you who want to enroll. And the coupon to do that, so let's say we clicked enroll, the coupon to do that, you're going to go right here where it says have a coupon, and you're going to type in back to school, which is easy to remember, and that's going to give you $500 off. So once again, that expires on September 27th. That link is also going out in the follow-up email, which Zoom will automatically send you with the recording from this session. If you have any questions about this course or anything that we offer at lasater.yoga, please email me directly. If you reply to any of the Zoom emails, it will come to me, or you can find me by emailing lasater, lasater.yoga@gmail.com. So that is my brief announcement at the beginning, and I will turn it over to Mom, who will get us started with dog pose.
Thank you, Lizzy. So the intention, when I believe when we practice dog pose, is to allow the vertebral column to elongate, to breathe, to let go, to exhale. And so we use our arms and legs in ways that directly affect that. And then the second thing is for shoulder mobility. Now, you can't really have shoulder mobility unless you have upper back mobility. So those go together. And in our cultures of sitting, we need that. So we have 5 important points to look at. Number 1 is the width between the hands and feet. So Lizzy, do you want to go to the mat now?
Yes, let me pin myself. I'm going to spotlight myself for everyone. So I'll be Big Mama's here, but you'll just see me on the screen.
All right. So this is how I'd like you to think about going into dog pose. Because this pose is so familiar and so universal, we tend to have the idea that we just want to pop into it. So I want to show you like that. I want to show you a way to go into it that is really bodyful. It's bringing this awareness to the fluidity of the body. So start by dropping the head. Take a breath. Inhale your breath. Curl your toes under. Now exhale. Just take a cat pose, nothing more. Just lift up. And then keeping that shape, inhale, exhale, go straight up. Don't go back yet. Now inhale, and with deliberation and focus and attention, I want you to slowly descend your heels toward the floor. So what I see a lot in this pose is that people tend to put what I think is their hands and feet too close together. So could you show us that, Lizzy? And then they try to hang into the shoulders. And what I want you to do is not to do that. I want you to walk your hands out a little bit. And then I want you to think of the line going from the center of your palm diagonally up and toward your hip socket to move your think of your column as going up and out, up and out. There you go. And breathing. Now let's do one more thing, and then we could maybe take a question. What I see a lot of people do in dog pose is put their feet, what I consider to be close together. Now, the closer you put your feet, the more difficult it is for your hamstrings. Now, so I tell people to put their feet wider apart, closer toward the edge of the mat. And now I hope if you're doing this with us, you feel the difference. Do you feel it, Liz?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you come out and we'll try this now together, all of us in Uttanasana, standing forward bend. So if you'd stand up, sort of a diagonal line, and put your feet together. So everybody, if you're doing this pose with us, put your feet together and then exhaling, come down into Uttanasana, standing forward bend. And notice how any limitation in the hamstrings and the rotation of your pelvis. And then now open your feet apart. Now inhale your breath, exhale, and descend into the pose. I like the alignment better. I think you will find it more comfortable. Inhale, up you come. So let's see if there's any questions on those two things. I noticed there was things in the chat.
Okay, I'm checking in with the chat. So that was the first point we were talking about, the width between the hands and
Hands
the
and the
feet.
feet. That we did two things. And then we did the width between the feet.
So the width between the feet themselves, you're asking us to be a little bit wider, bolder in dog pose, and you're asking the same thing, like to not be what I call puppy pose, not close feet to hands, but a little bit more expansive. So did anyone feel those things in their body? Let me look in the chat. Rainia is asking, will this recording be sent to us? Yes. Look for an email from Zoom 24 hours from now, which will automatically go out with the link to the recording. There was another question I saw about what's new in experiential anatomy for legacy students. You should have already received an email from me. All of the legacy students are always invited to the new webinars. So you're welcome to come to those live and you will receive those recordings as well. It's like a lifetime club. Once you get into the experiential anatomy club, you're part of the family. Kate is asking, Mom, will you speak to bodies with tight hamstrings who need accommodations like bent knees or who can't get their feet flat on the floor?
All right, those are two questions. There may be more than that. So go to the wall, Lizzy.
Yeah, let me pin myself once again. Okay.
So what is, when you do a forward bend in gravity, you want the pelvis to tip forward and not backward. So just where you're standing, can you show us a beginner who doesn't move the pelvis? No arms, just Uttanasana. Don't move the pelvis. This is horrifying to a kinesiologist because of the stress on the lumbar spine. The increased pressure on the lumbar disc is huge. So we all know that we want our students to be able to lift the tailbone up.
But let me just come closer just to make that really clear. So everybody knows these students. You might be this student, this yoga person who I'm not able to touch the floor because I'm holding this. It's as if my hamstrings are super tight. So the back here is shortened and then my pelvis isn't tipping, as opposed to now if I let my pelvis tilt, that's the difference.
So go to the wall. If I have people that are, like elite athletes or people who've never done anything physical their whole life and now they're 65 and they're in my yoga class.
Or someone like my partner who's super sporty, climbing mountains, skiing, hiking, biking, and this is so short back here.
So I give them half dog pose at the wall because I have a belief about this, which is alignment before range. That if you focus now teaching them to tip the pelvis and then push back, they get the feeling of dog pose, their hamstrings will be stretching. And if you tilt your head a little bit, you can see that it's almost like a dog pose. It's 90 degrees, but it's going to do almost everything that it does on the mat, but alignment before range, if we teach with that understanding, which is what we teach you in experiential anatomy, is alignment before range, the chance of injury to self or others is extremely reduced.
Okay,
That's important to remember.
what about the second part of Kate's question
Yes.
with the feet going down? A lot of people have that as a goal, that their feet will be flat, their heels will be down in dog pose.
All right. So we saw your dog pose before. Now go and stand in Uttanasana at the end of your mat, please.
Yes, 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 yes.
All right. Now, do not lift your heels and walk toward dog pose. So that to me is too narrow a dog pose. There's not enough length. Do you feel it, Lizzy? How do you feel in
Yeah,
this?
it feels like restricted.
And it feels restricted in your diaphragm and your breath, doesn't it?
It feels stunted.
It kind of feels like that moment where you're almost going to sneeze, but you can't sneeze. You need it. It's like being on a landing. It's not up, it's not on the second floor, it's not on the first floor, it's on the landing. It's like incomplete and unsatisfying. So come down for a second, and I want to teach you the third point.
Wait, so what I hear you saying is you're willing to sacrifice the heels down for that
Yes,
elongated feeling.
yes, yes, because if the awareness, and I'm going to show you this now in a second, or Lizzy is, if the awareness and the intention is descending the center of the heel, that's going to work, because a lot of people don't have that flexibility at the ankle, because most of us do not live in a society where people squat all the time. Right. So let's look at you again. And we're going to add the third point now.
Okay.
So start from hands and knees. All of you can try this with me, and then we can talk about it through the chat. Drop the head. Inhale the breath. Exhale, slowly lift up. Come right up on the toes. Now, turn your heels slightly out. Look at your inner ankle bones so you're not rolling out. Can you show us rolling out?
I'm hearing a kind of, wait. I'm hearing a kind of squeeching noise. Is anybody hearing that? Is it just me?
I'm hearing it. It's not coming from my house, though.
No. What could it be? Is your phone completely off, Mom?
Phone is turned off completely.
I hear it too. Okay, Jenna's asking what was the second point. Let me just review. Width between the hands and feet was point number 1. Width between the feet themselves was point number 2. And point number 3, which we're on now, is turning the heels out. So the sound appears to have stopped. We're going to continue and hope for the best. Samara thinks it's your alarm, Mom. Is your alarm going off? Your house alarm? No. Okay. Oh, Samara just got a text that your house alarm is going off. Bizarre. Okay.
How would you like to handle that? Review what we've done. I'll go off screen and see what I can do about it.
Yeah, mute yourself and go off screen. Okay. So yeah, Linda, I'm hearing it again too. It's very loud. Okay. Are there any questions about what I'm going to mute you, Mom? You'll have to unmute yourself when you come back. Are there any questions? Heidi, hi. I know it's back. Are there any questions about the 3 points that we have discussed? What I notice in Mom's outline is she's starting with the things that are easiest to accept in terms of our habit with dog pose. And then when we get to the upper extremity in points number 4 and 5, which are coming, these are the things where we're going to have a little more resistance. Yes, Kelly, we do. She does want us to turn the heels out. So let's try that all now together. Take dog pose.
Okay.
And she's back.
All I can say is this: never remodel, just move. Because there are people working here and they set off the alarm. I had no idea that they could even set. Anyway, this is why we need dog pose. We need dog pose. Okay.
Okay. Kristen is laughing. A lot of laughing emojis. You're being very relatable right now, Mom.
Yeah.
I know.
There are many stories I could give you about my maximum humanness, and most of them are quite funny. So,
okay, we were discussing the heels out, and there was like a shocked question in the chat. Heels out, question mark. Whoa. This is new. So walk us through your thinking about the heels out.
all right. So there are two major calf muscles. There are three, but there's more calf muscles. But the big one, and you can even reach down, Lizzy, on your calf and feel the inner calf muscle from the inside. Yeah, it's much bigger, yes, than the outer calf muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's larger. And so when you turn your heels, now we could feel this. This is experiential now. So go back to the mat and drop the head. Inhale, turn the toes under, inhale the breath, exhale, whoosh, lift up from the center body. Unfold the pose now, descend. Now, if you turn your heels in towards each other, that's what people do to avoid stretching that bigger calf muscle. Yeah.
So it feels easier suddenly. It's like,
it's cheating. So if you turn your heels slightly outward and you descend the center of the heel, be careful you're not rolling down flat onto the arches, but turn your heels out a little bit more, the front one. Now you're going to feel so much stretch in the middle, in the medial calf. Yes. The inner calf. Yes. And this is one reason you do the pose. So it doesn't matter in a way that her heels haven't yet reached the floor. What matters is she's moving in the direction of, which is thank you, Lizzy, for that, is a very important concept in teaching yoga. You can think that each of us in our own way, whatever level we practice, is moving in the direction of dog pose. So they're moving, as long as they're moving toward placing the heels down and they're getting a strong maximum stretch, you and your students, on the inner calf, I think it's much more effective as a lower leg stretch.
Okay, I agree. And I really like the way it feels, the diminishing effect on my ego when my heels. Okay.
I will be back again.
I really like the diminishing effect on my ego of not reaching the floor completely. Like there's something about that when I put my heels all the way down onto the floor, then it feels like it's complete, it's finished, I'm done. It's like, okay, I got this. But when there's that sense of longing for the floor from the heels, there was a question that I wanted to grab about how to cue the distance between the hands and the feet. That, like, the idea of cueing it is very difficult because it's not going to be a one size fits all approach of what you say to every student who's in your class. So what it is individually seeing the student, which is one of the big things that we learn in experiential anatomy, seeing the people and not the poses, teaching people, not poses. So what I would say is when I'm teaching with this philosophy and I see, like 6 out of the 10 people here are in puppy pose, I'll say, be bolder, experiment with taking more space between the hands and the feet. I'm seeing a lot of puppies in here. I'd like to see some full-grown dogs. Like those are ways that I cue with humor or encourage people to be, can you be bolder? Because it's rare, would you agree, Mom, that people are too wide? I almost never have to tell someone.
It's quite rare. Yeah.
Because someone was asking, how do you cue that distance between the hands and the feet?
You know, I like what Lizzy said, and I just want to, as an aside, tell you that there's no fire emergency. That was the non-emergency was finished. So I don't. I want to encourage my students in a to follow their own intuition, but in the beginning they need more boundaries around that, and so it's it's important that they are willing to experiment with a different length, which I encourage them to do, because yoga is really not about flexibility. It's about adaptability. Can I
Mm.
adapt to the situation right now in this moment? Can I be present no matter what's swirling around me?
I wanted to just say, Mom, I mean, we have tons of time. We're so happy that you're here with us. Do not feel flustered in any
I
way.
know. I just think it's funny. So let's go back so I can meld in with we did the calf stretch. We turned the heels out because we had the intention of stretching the larger calf muscle, the medial head of the gastroc. And has everyone done that? Do you feel that? Have you gotten feedback, Lizzy, that people feel the difference?
I think they did. There's a question that dovetails from Sherry, who's asking, should we turn the heels out by internally rotating from the hip?
Yes. Yes. Slight internal rotation of the hip facilitates flexion in the hip joint.
Mm.
So if you stand up in Uttanasana and you take second position in ballet, you turn your feet out, which you could show us right now. So you turn your feet out and you try to bend forward.
Yeah.
Now turn your toes in.
Mm.
It facilitates more movement at the hip joint. But I do want to answer that question about bent knees.
Yes, and let me just do this before I lose my place in the chat. Linda says, turning my heels out seems to create more space in the lower back,
Everything's
which I
connected.
liked.
Everything's connected.
All right, talk to us about bending the knees, Mom.
All right. So we have to talk about gravity. We are living in an ocean called gravity. And the body is at every moment responding to gravity. Right now, it's responding to gravity. So put your hands around your waist. Now lean towards your right. And take your arm away like you're going to reach down, your right arm down, you're going to pick something up. No, go back, stay that, lean to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Now take your right arm out like you're reaching down to pick something up, lean over, curl your back. Do you feel what's happening under your left fingers?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening?
It's getting harder.
No, your abdominals are contracting.
Yeah, my abdomen is getting
falling
harder.
down. So your body's always adjusting to gravity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you bend your knee, if this is your knee joint, this is your femur, and this is your thigh bone, and this is your tibia, and you're like this, you're standing up, and you have a lot of what we call congruence at the joint surface. A lot of the joint surface is touching each other. And when you bend your knee, do you think you have more or less stability in that joint?
Less
Because there's not as much what?
congruence.
Congruence. And what is the force that's pulling us?
Gravity.
Gravity. So if we bend our knees in a forward bend, not only do we not stretch the hamstrings, but they probably contract to keep you from falling down. And then there's a secondary problem, I think. If we teach our students to bend the knees, they get a lot more pelvic rotation, but they often, right at the sitting bones, overstretch those ligaments. And you don't want to overstretch ligaments. You want the stretch always to be in the belly of the muscle. So I teach it with straight legs.
Okay, but what if, devil's advocate here for the people who are with us, people who are watching the recording,
Yeah.
why then does it feel immediately like a relief? Like, why does it feel better when we bend our knees?
Because we don't like stretching the hamstrings because they're tight and we want to avoid that level of reality.
Okay.
So my approach is to go for alignment, not range.
Yeah.
Range feeds ego.
Yeah.
So you'll see people in yoga who can put their fingertips on the floor, but the way they sometimes contort the pelvis and the lower back to get it is not what I want to encourage. I want to encourage people to move with the body, to listen to the body, to act from the body, to pay attention to their own sensation. So if we're going to make an effective stretch of the hamstrings, we need to keep the knees straight in the field, in gravity.
Yeah. And someone is saying in the chat, which I recognize from being a student in classes, is that often when it's encouraged to bend the knees, and then they encourage you simultaneously to lift your sit bones. So that's the place where you can overstretch the attachment of the hamstrings, right where they attach to the pelvis. So there was one question here. No, a comment. Carrie says, this is revolutionary. I was always taught to keep knees bent in forward folds.
Well, Sherry said that.
Carrie.
Sherry. So my suggestion to you is that you practice it yourself and you trust yourself first and you notice how it feels. If you keep the legs straight, it brings more attention and more awareness because the stretch, the asana is not the yoga. It's the residue the asana leaves. And I feel on an esoteric sense, when we have this alignment, the nadis, the energy, the subtle energy flow is also quite different.
Mm.
There's more to the asana than meets the eye.
I want to
So,
move to the upper extremity because I'm mindful of time.
yes. So, what I want you to do dog pose. Two things about the upper extremity with the fingers turned slightly in and the weight on the fingers because of the effect that that's going to have on the shoulder. So we can take those 2 points separately now if you want. So I'd like you all to try the dog pose now that we're building slowly.
Yeah.
We can probably do a whole course on dog pose down.
I'm shocked that I'm shocked that we are I have spent 30 minutes and I'm looking at your outline. There's like so many more things we could do and talk about. It's amazing. Okay.
So actually at this point, would you be willing to turn your mat 90 degrees? And maybe move it back toward the window. Okay. All right. So I just want you to show this with the hands first. Turn your fingers out. All of you can do this with us. Just get down on the floor. Turn your fingers way out. And tell me what you feel that's different, Lizzy.
My arms want to rotate out, my elbows rotating forward.
The shoulders, the shoulder blade, the upper back. Drop your head forwards. It all feels different, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now point your fingers straight ahead. So sometimes people do it that way, but they tend to roll to the outside of the hand. You're going to do it fingers straight. Push the knuckle of the index finger. Show us what that is. Pick up your hand. The base, this is the root. This is like the base of the big toe. So you press that down. Now, but what I want you to do that's a little bit unusual for some people, and we're going to spend a bit of time talking about why I like this, what I base it on, and why I do it. Turn the fingers inward. Now, what do you feel? Where do you feel it? Drop the head.
I feel that my whole arm is starting to turn in the same direction, rotate in the same direction.
So this is what I want you to do in dog pose. And Lizzie's going to show us. Drop your head. Inhale the breath. Exhale, come up from the middle of your body. Let your head hang right up on the toes. And then inhale, exhale, open the backs of the legs as you descend. All right. So put the weight on the fingers, all of the fingers, especially not the thumb so much, but push away with the fingers and let the upper arms rotate in and lengthen back and up and off. Good. All right. There's something going on in the chat.
Okay, I'm coming. You know what's funny? You keep saying drop the head, and it's like what I wanted to say is, wait, I can't think if I drop my head, which is, I think, I'm guessing why you want us to drop our head. It's like, I can't think.
Whenever you drop the chin, the potential for presence is enhanced. In any position you're in, when the chin goes toward the chest, the parasympathetic nervous system is stimulated. And that's why we pray or we meditate. We go inward. And this is a practice of going inward or rediscovering the silence that's always there. Yeah. Even in those. Yes. So let's see some comments.
Okay, there was still, it looks like there was still a discussion about the lower extremity, about the bending of the knees. And what Kate asks, I think, is relevant. How do we work with exceedingly tight hamstrings? You may have missed that. Kate Mom showed, I demonstrated half dog pose at the wall. So for really, really tight students, Mom, are you suggesting they don't even practice dog pose?
This is where something called judgment comes in with you as a teacher. If it looks like a distortion and they're not able to get very much movement in the pelvis, first of all, if you could go back and just show us sideways, hands and knees.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a test you can kind of get. This is an interesting test. Turn to, yeah. So if you have someone who's extremely tight in their hamstrings, have them go to the floor and then tip the pelvis forward and back if you do that, and then back. Okay, if they can do this movement when you take out the hamstrings, because now you've bent the knee, so you've eliminated them as an impediment. Yes. Do this, the chances are their hip joints are functioning well, their sacroiliac joint is functioning well, the lumbar spine is functioning well, and it's probably just a muscular limitation that they can't do that in dog pose. Very simple little, unless you're a doctor, you can't diagnose. I'm a physical therapist. I'm not diagnosing, but I'm telling you this is a really good, quick test. And if that's true, they've got the mobility in the hips, the sacroiliac joint is functioning well, there's no pain, the lumbar spine is moving, then what is limiting them in a dog pose is muscular. And I take them to the wall, or then I put a chair against the wall, and then they can go down lower with their hands on the side of the chair. Which, do you want to show it, or?
I'm happy to show that. To be fair, I just want to say, many of you know this, but Mom teaches much more in the Iyengar yoga style, which is pose, pause, pose, pause, pose, pause. So in flow, it's very challenging if you have a student who is struggling with dog pose, or if their hamstrings are so tight that you don't think that's appropriate, because you're going to do 10 dog poses and you're just going to stay in each of them for 3 to 5 breaths. So that's a much more challenging situation. What you could conceivably do in a flow situation is you could give that student blocks and tell them to put their hands on block in dog pose. I've done that before as a way of giving them a different leverage, and instead of bending the knees.
So show us on the chair. Thumb hold wider on the chair. Put your thumbs down. So yes. Now push away from the chair. That's the movement. So then this is taking them towards the floor. So thank you. The other thing I say generally about flow practice is, I've suggested this often to flow teachers, is every week as you're getting ready to start, you might enjoy taking one part of the flow, one pose of the floor, of the flow and breaking it down and showing them a couple of alignment things that they can do and pay attention to in that. Do that 2 or 3 times, and then do your flow. So
Yeah.
part of what coming to a yoga class is, I believe, is not just giving them, quote unquote, the experience of it, but teaching them how to practice. Because that's when you know that the practice has caught fire in the student, is when they practice on their own. And ultimately, that we can guide them, we can support them, we can encourage them, we can suggest things to them, but it's in their own practice that they have the potential, I think, for the deepest effect. So to teach them a little bit about how to practice
Yeah.
every week.
Okay, I want to reassure Mary Ann, who's concerned we won't get to points 4 and 5. We will definitely get to points 4 and 5 in our remaining 19 minutes. Mom loves a list. She's going to check them all off. And I want to say to Kathy is saying that they are having trouble seeing me sometimes. Are you able to control your own view if you go to the top right for participants, Mom, not for you, but if you go to the top right, there's the view. Can you switch to gallery view? Are you able to do that? That would be a way to make sure, because sometimes I'm spotlighting myself and sometimes not, but on the recording, don't worry, you're going to be able to see me in all the poses. Okay, and there was a question about clarity. So could you just direct, Mom, because there's a lot of things that other teachers teach about the hand position that is different than what you're saying. So just to clarify, so people are clear what you're saying for them to experience in their bodies. Susie Jensen, by the way, just said that it felt amazing in her upper body when she turned the hands in slightly. Hi, Susie, we love you. So, Mom, talk to me about, like, this is what I'm thinking you're saying. Kind of point, what I think of is pointing this space forward or slightly in.
All the fingers slightly in like that.
All the fingers slightly in. So you're the floor for me now. I'm trying to make it clear.
So I want you all to try this where you're sitting. Your hands look like they're massively big because they're so close to the camera. So put your hands in front of you and put them so that the center of the palm is in line with your shoulder joint. So that's going to be feeling somewhat more narrow, Lizzy, for you. I'll move back. Now you've got your hands like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine you're pushing Ganesha the elephant. There's no power in your movement, right? Now widen the hands out a little bit. Turn them slightly in so that your collarbone has its natural width. If you put your hands close together, your collarbones are disturbed. Can you show us that?
Yeah, it's like this muscle here, this bone here across.
Yeah.
If I put my hands in closer, then this collapses
Feel it on
slightly.
yourself. If you take one arm in and then you feel what's happening, your collarbone is not at rest. It's not in a
Mm-hmm.
neutral. So you want to widen your arms to find your true shoulder width,
Mm-hmm.
which is, and then turn the fingers slightly in. Now inhale the breath, exhale. Now push Ganesha, the elephant. You feel the power, the strength, you feel the abs pop in.
Yeah.
That happens because the body is smarter than you are. Smarter than I am, smarter than Lizzy is. The body is smarter than we are. And when we follow the natural alignment of the body, the muscles do exactly what you want them to do. Because you did not tell your abdominal muscles to contract to stabilize you. They were smarter than you. They knew how to do it.
Yeah.
So when you turn your arms in and you have your natural shoulder width, you can really get the oomph, the push to elongate, allow the
All right.
vertebra.
Let's look at that. I'm going to pin myself. Let's just look at that point. This is point number 4.
Yes.
Let's look at that in the angle of dog pose. So you're really seeing it here. So what Mom meant was make sure not that to put the hands too close. I'm exaggerating. The hands too close together here.
Your shoulder
that,
blade, your collarbones feel scrunched.
Yes. And then, so I move them. What's the cue that you use for students to help find this width here, Mom?
Trial and error. But the width of your collarbone.
The width of your collarbone.
It's natural. And turn the fingers in a little more.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm turning my fingers in, and
Yes.
it's not just turning the fingers in, it's letting that ripple up the whole arm.
Yes. And you will feel everything. Someone's asking about the placement of the thumb. Just let it be where it is. It doesn't have to be under, I don't want to tell you a specific rule about it. I want you to find your own rule, but I do like the shoulder blades to have their natural width. Now go and drop the head. Stop thinking. Do dog pose. Exhale, rise up like a jellyfish, whoosh from the center. And then inhale and open. And now press, put the weight, think of not so much on the wrist or the palm, but on the fingers. How does that feel to you, Lizzy?
I like that.
It kind of lightens you up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. Now it's time to get serious.
Okay. Couldn't
All right.
resist. So this is point number 5, which we saved. I'm guessing mom saved for the last one because this is most shocking. This is unlearning. This is about shifting a movement pattern that for some of us is decades in the making.
All right. Before we do that, though, would you check the chat? Because I don't follow the chat. And I know there are chatty people there with questions.
Yeah, there's some that are too long. I think are going to lead us off to, I mean, they're great questions like modifications for osteoporosis, or what about carrying angles? What is the core doing in the pose?
Core will do what the core does if you align the limbs. It will. It's smarter than we are.
Yeah.
We can't think. We could not think consciously how to stand up from this chair. All the things that have to happen, we could not think it. But the body knows how to do it.
Not to mention like the shift in your blood pressure and stuff like that that happens, the heart rate.
I think asana needs to be more about listening than telling the body.
Yeah.
It knows what to do. So this is why I like so much teaching this experiential anatomy, which is movement literacy, and understanding how to hear or feel or sense the body's intelligence. And that to me is what alignment is based on. It's not based on control. It's based on knowledge of what the body's bones by their shape tell us. And I'll give you a quick example now.
Let me say one thing before you do, Mom. I think part of the conundrum that we find ourselves in this world of yoga where cues are passed on and teachers are not actually looking at you from a kinesiological standpoint and they're not seeing you individually, is because teachers have not been trained deeply enough in kinesiology and anatomy. And so then they're just passing on, we've memorized these rules, these cues, these rote ideas that we try to apply to everyone that we're unquestioningly receiving from our teachers because it's too much too quick in 200 hours of training. And what fails or falls down or what people have a big feeling of inadequacy about is the anatomy kinesiology piece. That's what we're trying to kind of support here with this course, experiential anatomy. And that's the big shift, is not just learning. We're not going to teach you a whole new set of rules that it's like, oh, this is your new cue book of the things you're going to say. We're going to teach you a new set of understandings and principles, and you're going to be able to apply them into every pose for different students. Does that make sense?
Yes, and to study anatomy is not what we really want. I mean, anatomy is just the structure. It's like learning the letters of the alphabet. But what is more important to us is movement literacy. It's okay, now I know the letters, tell me how to put them together to make words. How does, if you don't know the structure of the shoulder joint, like the basic bones and the basic muscles, you can't understand when someone's, and therefore then how it moves naturally. You can't help someone whose shoulder doesn't move naturally if you don't know the structure that creates that movement. So I just want to show you a simple point about this. If you would just stand Tadasana from the side.
You need to see my whole body?
Yeah, just Tadasana. Yeah, it just, no, get on your mat if you want. I mean, step into the sacred space of practice. You're doing Tadasana. All right, you're too far away, my sweet.
I know.
There you go. Stand up. And just so we could, we want to see your feet. That's good.
But I have to be further away.
All right. We just need to be in the same room together, all of us. All right. where do the tibias, the shin bones, join the foot?
In the back.
In the back. So sometimes people say put the weight on all four corners of the foot. But if that's not what the body is telling us by its structure, what if we wanted to put the weight on all four corners, our tibias would come down in the middle, would be a hobbit or something. I don't know. But the body structure, the architecture of the lower leg, you're an architect, so back me up on this one, that the weight is now borne onto the back part of the foot. So if you, I want to stay there, my sweet.
Yes.
You can be really assured that this is live because we're just live. All right, now you're doing Tadasana. And if you tuck your tailbone, you take the weight forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bring your pubic bone back and take 2/3 of the weight onto the back third of your foot. Yes. Now, if you look at this pose, you will see, come again slightly back from the pubic bone. Turn the toes in a little bit. Now you see Tadasana goes from the ankle to the knee to the hip to the shoulder.
Mm.
There's a normal curve in the lower back, and the weight is distributed 2/3 on the back of the foot. 2/3 of the weight is on the back third of the foot. And then the slender bones and of the toes and the metatarsals, they are for balance and propulsion, not for weight bearing in the same way. They do weight bear some, but not the same. All right, so this is a whole nother, that's good. This is a whole nother can of worms to open up. But the point is we need to look at the structure and understand the structure of the body, because that tells us about the movement of the body.
Yeah.
And what's allowed at each joint and what isn't. And that's what's so exciting and fun and why we get so excited about it. So now at this moment, I want you to take a breath. And I want you to open the mind to the possibility of a new thought. Okay. So one of the cardinal rules of dog pose is to hold the shoulders down toward the waist. I think that's pretty common.
So give a yes in the chat if you've been taught that, to make space here between the ear and the shoulders, to hold the shoulder blades down. It's also sometimes, I was taught for many years from a different teacher, to rotate the outer upper arm bone out, like in this direction. I'm seeing lots of yeses, thousands of yeses. Oui, says Sylvie.
We're going to taste a different movement. So would you show us the pictures from Yoga Myths, one of my books?
Okay, I'm showing photos from this book, which is wonderful and should be on your yoga bookshelf, Yoga Myths from Mom. And
we're entering into the land of unlearning for the moment. All right, here's a picture of our beautiful model and friend, Charisse, raising the arms over the head and holding down the shoulder blades. Do you see that her, especially left elbow, isn't able to straighten?
Yes.
Now, show the next one.
Yeah.
Now she's letting the shoulder blades go up. And go back. Can you go back and forth somewhat quickly? It looks like a movement that way. Now, what I like is this second one. Now, if you look carefully at the top, horizontally, you'll see the contraction of the upper trapezius muscle.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm talking about, Lizzy? You can really see it on the right. Yeah, right in there and right in there. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's what people are afraid of. But let me tell you this about the upper trapezius. It's dharma. Why it manifested in reality out of spacious consciousness is to elevate the shoulder blades. And this is a time we need to elevate the shoulder blades. And it's doing its job. So if you'll all try this, now we can, if you'll just stand up and take your arms over your head, and Lizzy's going to show us, are sitting, but move the outer shoulder blades up. Yes. I actually kind of want you to do it standing because I think you're going to find something really interesting that happens when you take your arms over your head and lift the outer shoulder blades maximally up. You will feel the stretch all the way into the belly.
Mm-hmm.
So from the belly, fly up, drop the chin, breathe. You feel like you can go forever. Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I want to show you something. You have a picture of the scapula from the posterior side. And then I
Mm-hmm.
also have my bones here, which I want to show.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left, Mom. I'm sure you can do it. You want to see this or a more this one?
That one.
Yeah.
All right. So would you point to the collarbone?
So this is a little bit confusing. One half of the body, what this scapula we're looking at from behind, and this
Yeah.
we're looking at from the front. This is the collarbone.
Yeah. Let's look at it from the back. Look at the one on the right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So right above the beyond, show me the spine of the scapula. Okay. There's a muscle that lives right above that. And we can take that off now, and I'd rather show you on this one.
I just show you here it is. This is the muscle, the
There it is.
supraspinatus
That's a
tendon. Yeah.
supraspinatus muscle. It lives in that little opening above the spine and it goes underneath and attaches to the humerus. Okay. So let me show it on this now.
Okay.
This is looking at your right scapula from the back. Here's the supraspinatus muscle. It lives on the top. If you go find the spine of your scapula and then you go up a little bit, and you press in there, it's probably tight. Here, when you start to raise your arm up, either to the side or the front, if you don't turn the scapula, what's going to happen is the humerus is going to entrap. All right. So this is the supraspinatus muscle right here, my finger. And here's the shoulder joint. And when
Hold it higher up. Hold it higher up, Mama. We can't see. Yeah.
when this muscle comes through and the humerus starts to lift up either forward or out, it's going to entrap that tendon, the supraspinatus tendon. So here's the humerus. And when it lifts up, if you don't let the scapula rotate, you entrap the supraspinatus tendon. And I'm telling you, I'm seeing more and more and more experienced yogis with the supra tendinitis of the supraspinatus, and they have to have it repaired because you're entrapping it whenever you hold the shoulder blades down in full flexion. So I want you to, let's see, what do you think the best way to do it is? Let's try the backstroke.
Okay.
So what happens is when you raise your arm, let's do this. Look at me for a second. Put your hand here on the top of your humerus. When you start raising your arm up, you feel an external rotation, do you not?
Yes.
But if you get up to the top, stay up there, take the left hand away. If you get up there and you keep externally rotating, it pulls the humerus down into the socket. And it makes it harder to take the arm back. And it makes it harder to arch your thoracic spine. Now turn your thumb, I'm turning my thumb forward and away and up. Now I have a lot, this is how you swim the backstroke. So when you're taking your arm over in swimming, you sort of internally rotate it, right? But if you go backward like this, your body naturally internally rotates at the edge to prevent dislocation.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. In dog pose, where you're wanting to get to the full range, you need to internally rotate. So why don't you show us?
Do you want to see the drawing?
No, I want to see you doing the pose.
On my back. The drawing on my back.
Yeah, the drawing on your back. Absolutely. I want to see this. This is the funnest thing ever.
This is the big reveal.
This is the funnest thing ever. This is how we teach you experiential anatomy in the course. All right. So that's her scapula, the outline of her right shoulder blade. Now, take your arm out to the side and up. What happens to the shoulder blade? Keep going, keep going, keep going. It rotates. It rotates and turns up so there's space for that tendon. Now, let's show it to the front. Come down, come forward and up. Do you see how the shoulder blade rotates? It elevates too. The outside of the shoulder blade elevates. Let's see both arms together. Come down and do flexion. Forward, flexion. No, flexion. Now lift up, lift. Now, do you feel freedom? You're internally rotating. That means the thumbs are moving away from you. You feel a lot of freedom, yes?
And let me show, this is what most of us are taught in dog pose.
And do you see that you really straighten your arms? And if you try to go further back with your arms,
it hurts.
You feel a bony block, yes?
Yes.
That's because there is a bony block and you're entrapping your supraspinatus tendon.
Let's look at it in dog pose. And then I think we have to say goodbye.
All right, my hands.
Yeah.
The scapula moves like this. So the inside might go down, but the outer borders go up. So there's no entrapment. I'm not making this up. It's called the glenohumeral rhythm. Let's look at you one more time.
Okay. I'm gonna get a clip for my hair.
Don't believe me. Try it. Don't be afraid to try it. So first I want you to do what we don't like. Exhale, come up into your pose, slowly with attention, getting into the pose as an asana, coming out as an asana, everything's an asana. Now show us holding the shoulder blades still.
Yeah.
Now show us letting the shoulder blades move. No child ever holds their shoulder blades down. When you're reaching up for something in the top shelf, what you want most in the world is up there. You are lifting your shoulder blade. That is the normal movement. I am not making this up.
Okay, let me show this 2 more photos and then we really have to say goodbye. I want to show these last 2 photos from...
I don't want to say goodbye. I want to do a whole thing on the shoulder. Look at that.
So this is rotating in, look at her hands and the spaciousness, and this is holding it down and back.
When I look at that pose, I hold my breath.
Yeah.
I get a contact breath holding event happening.
Okay, I think we need to leave it
go back
here.
And forth. Go back one more time. Well, we had that alarm issue. So go back and forth between those 2 poses. You see, that's collapsing, that's lengthening. That's collapsing when you externally rotate. It limits your movement. And I will tell you, because I know she would not mind, thank you, that our partner in crime, Mary, who's part of Experiential Anatomy, I met Mary at a weekend workshop on the shoulder joint. And
years ago.
I'm telling you this story with her permission. And I walked by her. She was turning her upper arms out. I said, what's wrong with your right shoulder? She said, how did you know? I can see. And I had her internally rotate. And she said, this is the first time in years I don't have pain in my right shoulder in dog pose. And she went home and she showed her husband, look, I could do this now. There's no pain. He said, what happened? So understanding functionality, I can't get rid of her. She's still hanging around, and now she's teaching with us and is a dear and much loved friend. But all I want from you is to experiment with this. And we would love to have you in our course because there's a lot of fun moments. And I know for a fact no alarms go off.
Let me tell everyone.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mama, for this teaching. I want to remind everyone of the website, lasater.yoga. If you go there and click on Experiential Anatomy, you use the code back to school, you'll get in the course for 40% off, and you will be permanently in the Experiential Anatomy Club. That means you'll be invited to future webinars, etc. Those of you who are legacy students, I saw in the chat, a couple of you hadn't received that email. You could check your spam box, or you could email me directly for the link, lasater.yoga@gmail.com. And I want to reassure you that if you're like me, that you don't love anatomy or kinesiology, or you think it's intimidating or just something that you can't get, that is absolutely not true. That's my job in the course, is to advocate for those of us who don't get it, to slow mama down, to slow Mary down, to just say like, wait, what's flexion again? I'm confused. So don't feel like you're going to be, that it's going to be over your head, or that there's no one who's going to ask a dumb question, because
Here's the thing, is that it's such a valuable knowledge base in teaching yoga. If we're teaching people how to move their bodies, what we can learn about it. And I like to create the feeling that it's just all of us together, learning together. We do a lot of laughing.
yeah.
And people say it's fun.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it's about something you love,
Yeah.
which you already know. You already know a lot of this. You just don't know the name for it.
It's true. There's a question if we're on social media. We are. Mama and Samara, who helps her, are on Instagram, which is wonderful. You can find Mom's Instagram and Facebook if you go to judith.yoga. You can find my Instagram and YouTube and newsletter if you go to lizzy.yoga. That's a website. And I wanted to share my screen for the last 30 seconds. There's something that someone asked for, a quick recap of the points from today. So this is just a little screenshot from Mama's notes, and you'll see the width between hands and feet was point number 1. The width between the feet themselves was point number 2. 3 was the heels out. 4 was upper extremity, turn hands inward, and point 5 was upper extremity, shoulder blade placement. Shoulder blade is the root of all large upper extremity movements. So you'll have that here, you'll have that on the recording. We're sending you a deep namaste across the skies. Thank you so much for your attention, for your love of yoga, and for being here with us.
Inhale the breath, open the hands. Exhale, bring the palms together in front of the heart. May we live like the lotus, at home in the muddy water. I am thankful for you, my daughter, and all your help in letting your husband draw on you. I hope it washes off when you go swimming. Thank you for your support and your help and your questions. I could not and would not do this without you. And thank you all for your kind attention and your patience with my household drama. I hope you learned something, and that it was a moment in time that we connected and that we all enjoyed. I hope that was true for you. See you.
Bye, everyone. Love you, Mama. Bye, everyone.
See you in the live sessions.